Real esoteric spirituality without all of the fluff, without all of the nonsense. This is the thunderwizard.com YouTube channel. Click subscribe and then hit the little bell button so that you can be notified whenever I've uploaded a video or when I'm doing the live Q&A videos. And good afternoon, Thunder Wizards. So again, I'm coming on without any prior notice. And I hope all of you are staying warm in this Arctic. We're in a weird sort of bizarro world where things are warmer than normal at the poles. There's a heat wave going on in Australia, and we have like temperatures that are similar to Antarctica in the Midwest. It's a crazy thing. And then I guess I hear that the weather's going to change and go up by 70 degrees, after this strange, weird stuff. Anyway, so we're talking about why does the soul go to the moon after death? Perhaps you've heard this, but this is something that's found in some Vedic mythology, and in some Vedic scriptures you'll read that after death the soul goes to the moon. And people take that literally, and maybe it is literal. I honestly don't care. I'm not interested in whether it's the soul literally goes to the moon or not. But remember that the word moon has multiple meanings. So we're going to talk about that. And this teaching, the reason why I'm just doing this, because it's still fairly early in the day for me, but oftentimes when I'm waking up in the morning, and when you're in that state between being fully awake and not asleep, but you're still really tired and you really can't get out of bed, and you fall back asleep and you have these dreams, right? I don't know if you have that experience, but I do. And I have some of my most intense dreams as I'm waking up, the last hour, half hour. And as a shaman, I like to make use of that because that gives me access to my conscious and my unconscious mind. And it gives me an opportunity to ask my unconscious mind questions. So in those periods where you're sort of waking up and you're looking at the clock and I think I'll go back to sleep. As I'm drifting off back to sleep, I will ask a question. And, or if something's in my mind, if I just had a dream, then I will go back and I will want to ask characters in that dream, what does this mean? Who are you? All that kind of stuff. And so this morning I wish I could just take the movie that was playing in my head where I saw, because in that state I can see visually and I can hear and experience and understand. And, the depth of wisdom that it feels to me when I'm in that state is really profound. But of course it fades as I wake up and I'm just in my conscious mind. But enough of it remained that I wanted to share with you. And it has to do with the importance of the moon in astrology. And, without the moon, there would be no experience. There would be no experience on this life. And so, I'm reminded of that, those scriptures that say that when you die, the soul goes back to the moon and waits to reincarnate. And instead of looking at that literally, let's take a look at what that means. So, as you know, the moon, in our modern language, moon, comes from the word mone in Old English. I'm going to spell it out here, how it sounds, not how it's actually spelled. Mone, like the painter Monet. That's what the Old English is. Comes from the Indo-European word mon, which is directly in the Proto-Germanic. The word for human being and the word for moon was the same thing. It was mon. By the way, human beings were not called man and woman. That's not how they, male and female. Male was wer, like werewolf, and female was weef. That's where we get the word wife. So literally when you say this is my wife, you're saying this is my woman. And when a woman says this is my husband, it's even worse. If you think that's sexist, this is my woman, like it sounds like you own your woman. Well, guess what's worse? The word for husband is even worse. Husband means housebound. So who's got the power there? You've got the woman and the housebound, the servant. So that was the original male and female was wer and weef, and the word for human being was moon. Moon is simply mind. Moon means mind. And so what does that say when, and the Vedic and the Germanic are the same here, because, we say that the first human being was named Manuj. The UZ is just, all languages used to have endings that told you the case, which meant the function in the sentence. If it was the subject, then it had, in the old Germanic, it had a UZ. But we don't use those anymore. So really, they said that the first human being was called Man, which means mind or moon. We use the word mankind. It means mind kind. Those that are of the mind. Human beings are about the mind, which is the moon. And that human life is an experience of the mind. Bear in mind that when I use the word mind, I am not saying intellect. I am guessing here that the vast majority of you listening, when I say the word mind, what you interpret is intellect. If you go to a doctor and you ask him, tell me about the origin of the mind, he's going to say, oh, well, you have this thing inside of your skull here called a brain, and the brain does all these things, and so the mind, he doesn't know that the mind is not the brain. He doesn't know that. This is Western mentality. You go to some other culture, more primitive culture, you go into the Vedic culture or the Taoist culture, and you talk about the mind, and they're going to start talking about experience. They're going to start talking about meditative states. They're going to start talking about the mind. The mind is not the intellect. You've heard me say that over and over. We're going to talk about what the intellect is. So what I want to share with you is that this human life, imagine that the mind is like a viewing screen, except it's a 3D interactive viewing screen. It's, what do you call that? It's a virtual reality goggle. That's what the mind is. The mind allows you to experience multiple things, not just human life, but spiritual life. It allows you to have this virtual reality experience. And so human life is nothing more than a virtual reality experience. Now, when I say virtual reality, it doesn't mean that you're disconnected. The movie Avatar is an excellent, there's a reason why that movie was so popular. It's because that's exactly the experience that we have, is that we take on this virtual reality avatar, and we go into this three-dimensional virtual reality. It is a reality among many, so it's not the ultimate reality, so we can call it a virtual reality. But that doesn't mean it's not real. And this is where, I come into conflict with people who want to talk about that we live in a matrix. People who talk about living in a matrix are people who are disconnected from their mind. They're not experiencing it. They're not having an interactive experience, and or they are seeking to not have an interactive experience. But this is absolutely an interactive experience, and you cannot escape it. I'm sorry to tell you, you cannot escape it. Your virtual reality game at one point will come to an end, at which point you will take the goggles off. And then you will be back to your original essence. And so when we say that when the soul dies, it goes to the moon to await reincarnation, it means it becomes reabsorbed back into the collective mind. The moon is, in Vedic astrology, is easily the most important planet. And the history of Vedic astrology is that before, previous to 2,000 years ago, Vedic astrology was lunar astrology. It was 100% based on the lunar mansions, which are the star constellations having to do with the course of the moon. And even to this day, you know, in Hindu culture, they know the phases of the moon so well that when a child is born, even without going to an astrologer, they know what name to give the child because they know where the moon is and what the syllable that is associated, and they take that syllable and they give it to the child because that allows the child to interact through this portal of the mind. The mind means emotions as well. Mind is what it sounds like. It's where your mind is at, where your focus is. But bear in mind, you can't separate that from your emotions. And what are emotions? Emotions are your reactions to experience. So you cannot, human life is an experience. If you're trying to get through life by thinking your way through it, you are not having an experience. And so that's why I'm constantly telling people that they must embrace all of their feelings. So let's talk about feelings for a moment since we're talking about the moon. Feelings obviously can be both positive and negative, and I do, before I go any further, let me just say I do understand if there's anybody watching who has had challenging, maybe traumatic emotional experiences, and what you want most is to not be in your feelings because you have all these really horrible emotions. And I understand. I've had my own experience. Maybe I haven't had it as challenging as you, but I've had my share of tremendously challenging experiences on an emotional level. So I understand the desire to want to disconnect emotionally. It is my experience that the vast majority of Western culture, which is like a virus spreading all over the world, I don't just mean the culture like, you know, cars and stuff like that. I mean the mindset. That is spreading all over the world, and you have more and more people who want to disconnect emotionally. And what ends up happening is that you end up not having an experience. You end up being tossed around. So let me just say, it seems counterintuitive, but the way to change your emotional experience into a more positive one is not by avoiding your feelings, it's by experiencing them. The more that you disconnect from your feelings, the less control you will have over your life, which means the more that life will beat the crap out of you, which will create more negative feelings. So I'm going to characterize emotions in two extremes. On one extreme, you have the positive emotions: love, happiness, joy, friendship, camaraderie, pleasure, you know, all of the pleasant emotions. I would say those are the emotions that are most connected to your actual soul nature. And so if you want to have more of these, then getting to the root of your core essence and living from that core essence is what will allow you to experience that. Now, on the other extreme, we have the negative emotions. We have fear, we have sadness, we have pain, we have hatred, jealousy, envy, shame, resentment. Those are reactive. Those are emotions that are reactions to stimulus. And if your experience of life is that you live in those reactive emotions, and please, I'm not judging you. So I can hear, as I use these words, I can hear, you know, people wanting to be spiritual. Oh, I don't react to my life, and I'm this, and you're so in denial. the pseudo-spirituality. It makes me want to puke. And I hear the maybe it's just coming from me, maybe this is my projection, but I hear the desire to turn, oh, the reactive feelings are bad and the true feelings are good, which is why, hey, man, I'm all about love, man. You know, and that again is another form of denial. People who say, oh, I don't go into those lower vibrations, man. Those are the people, the first ones that are going to talk shit about you behind your back, that are going to blow up at you and be resentful at you when you don't do what they want. And they're going to say, you cause all this drama, which means you don't do what they want, which means they have a bunch of drama inside of them and they blame it on you. You know, I laugh when I'm not looking at dating sites now, but, you know, when you look at dating sites and you see I don't want any drama. If you're about drama, then you just walk on by. You know, that's the person you know is going to be causing all the drama, right? Because they're not going to be able to be there with you in your reactive feelings, and we have to have them. You have to have them. So if all of you're experiencing is drama, reactive feelings, I'm going to give you the reason why. The reason why is because you have given up control of your destiny.
Okay, so be honest with me. You have tried practicing the law of attraction in your life. You have sat on the edge of your bed and you have focused on positive feelings and focused on bringing up good feelings about things that you want in your life, and you've had little or no results. If you're honest, in my experience, the majority of people who have really tried to use the law of attraction to manifest their dreams have been disappointed, and in some cases outright frustrated, and in some cases their lives got worse. Now there is an actual reason for that, and that is because the law of attraction actually doesn't work unless it is combined with the law of manifestation. And sadly, most of the law of attraction teachers out there, many of them well-intentioned, are only giving half of the recipe for being successful when it comes to intending and manifesting your life. My name is Michael William Denny of the ThunderWizard.com YouTube channel, and just like you years ago, I tried sitting on the edge of my bed and focusing on positive feelings. I tried to keep myself in a positive state of mind, and very little happened, and as a result it was very hard for me to keep those positive feelings coming. And then I was told that, well, you have negative things in your life because you're focusing on too many negative things. But the problem was I couldn't turn my negative feelings off. But here's something that I've learned, and this is incredibly important. I want you to listen to this. You don't have to monitor your feelings. You can have all kinds of negative feelings. You can have sadness, you can have fear, you can have resentment, all of these so-called negative feelings that are supposed to bring you all kinds of negative things. You can have these feelings, and if you know how to practice the law of manifestation, it doesn't matter how you feel. And that to me was so liberating. Because listen, there's a lot of people out there feeling guilty and feeling unspiritual because they do have less than perfect feelings. And when things aren't manifesting the way they want, guess what happens? Naturally, you have negative feelings coming up. And if you've been told that your negative feelings will bring negative things, then you are then filled in with this feeling of guilt and shame, and then you go into this cycle of guilt and shame, and you can never get out of it. And it doesn't matter how many seminars you go to, or how many books you read, or how many videos you watch of people telling you if you focus on positive things will happen. None of that matters, because now you're filled with all of these negative feelings, and then you're afraid to take any action, and then nothing happens in your life. So I'm here to free you from all of that. It doesn't matter how you feel. The only thing that matters is, do you know how to properly intend? And that is what the law of manifestation is. When you combine that, then guess what happens? You start to have some positive feelings come back into your life, and then guess what happens? Then you can merge the law of attraction, because you can take those positive feelings and you can merge it with the law of manifestation, and you can focus that energy into your intentions And then, in my experience, the law of attraction and the law of manifestation works every time. It has worked for me. I'm sitting here in front of my house. I'm not kidding you. My house is right over there. And I simply walked out of the front door of my house this morning and decided to make a video and tell you my experience of the law of manifestation and the law of attraction. So, if you want to get started, click the link and go to thunderwizard.com and look for the Manifestation Mastery course and click on that to get started.
Because you have two choices. You can interact with life and you will have reactive feelings, just like, you know, when you walk outside and it's cold, you have an experience, a reaction. If it's hot, you have a reaction. You have reactions to stimulus. You're still gonna have all those. But they become a lot more tolerable because then you're operating from your proactive feelings, which you can't have unless you are proactively engaged in following your true path. When you follow your true path, then that just, you know, the reactive feelings are just sort of like the brush that, you know, you've got your machete and you're chopping it off because you have some place to go. But if you're just in your reaction, it's like you don't have a machete in the jungle and you're sitting there and the vines are just growing around you. Right? So where the hell am I going? I don't remember. We're talking about emotions. We're talking about the mind, specifically the moon. All right, so let me get into the teaching here. So we're talking about astrology. As I said this morning, as I was waking up, I was having, you know, I love those late mornings when I can just sleep in, which of course for me is every day because I've chosen to live that way. I just sleep in and you wake up and go back to sleep, and I ask myself questions and I ask the universe questions and I have shamanic experiences sometimes. Sometimes nothing happens. I just have, you know, just my unconscious play stuff out, and I get to then later when I wake up go, oh, so I must be thinking about this, and that's what's going on with me, and I get to do some self-analysis. Dreams are really great because you can really see what's going on in your unconscious mind. Really wonderful. So let's create an assumption. I'm going to create some assumptions for you. If you choose to accept my assumptions, then you can follow me along in this universe I'm going to create for us, and we'll see if it applies to you or not, if it's helpful for you. My assumption is that we, at our essence, we are infinite souls. The soul is infinite. The soul has no ego. The soul has no identity. The soul, because it lives in infinite bliss, also has no real experience. And it wants to experience things. So people want to get on my case because they think, forgive me for the judgment, they think superficially and dualistically, and you know, when I say that the soul incarnates in order to learn and to grow, people go, well, if the soul is infinite, why does it need to learn? And I can tell by that question, this is somebody who hates their life and they want out and they want to commit suicide or whatever, and they don't want to, they hate this life, and why can't I just know everything right now? Because the soul wants to have fun. Bliss is great, but limited experience creates an adventure, which creates excitement. There's no risk involved in being infinite. There's no risk. When there's risk, it becomes fun, which is why we have to die. Just, you know, if we didn't have to die, life would be very boring. Human life would be so fucking boring if we didn't have to die. I say that with as much fear of death as anybody. I don't want to die. I want to stay alive. That's why I'm desperately trying to hold on to my youth. So I want to stay alive. I want to keep experiencing myself. The soul wants to experience itself, and it can't do that until it becomes limited. And so it creates an avatar. And the avatar then goes through the portal of the moon, the mind, into this virtual 3D virtual reality we call human life. And so, and I've got a lot of thoughts in my head. I'm having a hard time putting words to them. So I liken it to a video game. Now, I haven't played video games in years. I don't play computer video games. I don't know what the hell all that's about these days. I don't know what the kids are doing these days. When I was a kid in the 70s, we went down over here to Redondo Beach Pier to the, I can't remember the name of it. It's probably still there, the arcade. We would go to the arcade there, and we would get $5 in quarters, and that was a lot. You had a pocket full of quarters. I mean, you'd walk around in your jeans and all this. It sounds like a bunch of people playing maracas. Everybody's walking around with a pocket full of quarters. There's a song for you, pocket full of quarters. So you're walking around with a pocket full of quarters, and you go in and you play Galaga or Defender or, Pac-Man or, Centipede, whatever your game was. I'm trying to remember the games, with the big console in front of you. And as you're playing, you have a bunch of guys underneath you. You're free guys, little stick figures. That's how many guys you have. Depending on the game, you might have a health meter. And if the health meter goes down or the red line comes up, you're getting close, you can die, right? You're going to lose a guy. And you put the quarter in the machine, the game is going to start. So if you put quarter in the machine, you walk away, the game is going to play, and your character is just going to get pelted by whatever, and it's going to die. And you lose all of your guys, and then you'll come back and your game is over. So no, once you put the quarter in, you're in for good. You got to play. This three-dimensional life that your soul has desired to experience when it has incarnated into this avatar, the game is on. You can't walk away, You can't walk away in case, I hate this game, and walk away and just let it die. You can't do that. You're in it. It's going to keep playing whether you want to play or not. So you have to first understand that this is a participatory sport. If you sit around and wait for life to happen to you, all that's going to happen is you're going to get tossed around, and your life meter is going to go down, right? And it's going to be miserable. So you got to play. And we'll get to this, but the emotions that allow you to play the game are the emotions that are connected to your essence. Joy, love, friendship, pleasure, excitement, all of those things are coming from your soul, which give you the ability to, deal with all of the shooting bullets or the whatever, or the monitoring, or whatever the video game is. So if you have this experience that life is challenging, yes, it is. You chose it. You wanted the challenge. You wouldn't have come here if you didn't want the challenge. It's supposed to be challenging. I'm not trying to minimize anybody's pain. Trust me, I'm not. But it just, what I share with you is, look, I don't care if what I teach is true or not. I don't care. I only care about one thing. The one thing I care about is, does it make my life better? I will adopt any belief if it makes my life better. What I'm sharing with you is not just what's been taught. It's what has practically worked in my life. I have tried so many different religions throughout my life. And what I'm sharing with you is the hodgepodge of things that I've brought together that has made my life better. And I feel pretty confident that if you're able to follow whatever direction you can glean from my teaching, I believe that it will make your life better. I'm not going to try and take away the pain. I want you to be pain-free. I want you to be happy. I want you to be, if I could minimize the challenges in your life, I would. The pain. I would love to do that. That's not what you signed up for. You signed up for a challenging adventure. And just like that video game, if you take your hand off of the joystick and the buttons and you don't do anything, you're going to start getting pelted by things, and it's going to be a very unpleasant experience. Your health meter is going to go down, the little red line is going to come up, your little stick figures are going to start going down, and you're going to have nothing but reactive feelings because life's going to be pelting you, and you're going to have all these reactions to it. Doesn't matter how many drugs you take to try and get rid of it, you're still going to have it. So just own up to it. Just accept it. This is a participatory sport. If you want to minimize the pain, you got to play the game. You got to do it. But you're absolutely right. If you feel like this is some external program, as you will, that's being played upon you, great. That's true. But the worst way to handle that is to stop playing. Worst way. Great thing is if you start playing the game and you start learning how the game works, then you get to have fun. By the way, go to matrix.thunderwizard.com, because if you want to learn the rules that the game functions by, and you want to look at it that way, go follow those rules, okay? Because that's another thing I've learned. I've tested this out. This isn't something I just read in a book. I've tested these things out, and they work. Okay? All right, so your soul wants to come here for this experience, blah, 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 blah. All right, so imagine, you can imagine a stage. There's going to be this drama that's going to be presented, which is your life. Or, like me, if you like gladiator movies, then imagine it's a coliseum. And in the Colosseum, there's going to be this battle for the soul, right? Woohoo! Pass the wolf nipple chips. All right. Those of you who watch Monty Python know that reference. Wolf nipple chips. All right. So, in this Colosseum, there is 10 characters. There are 10 characters in your play. The first character is called the ascendant. In Vedic astrology, it is called the lagna. It's spelled L-A-G-N-A. Oh, I have to put the cursor there. L-A-G-N-A, lagna. Comes from the same root word that we get lug, nut. And it's a very interesting, oops, I almost ended the video. It's a very interesting coincidence that lugna and lugnut sound exactly the same. It's because the lugna or the lug nut is exactly what a lug nut. You know what a lug nut is? That round thing. If you've got something sticking up, you screw it. It screws you into place. And the lug nut is where you were screwed into place. Literally, that's what it means. So this is why in Vedic astrology, the most important thing is your lugna, your ascendant. That's why we don't use the sun sign as your sign. Because the sun sign, number one, is third in importance. And number two, your sun stays in the same sign for 30 days. It's not an accurate expression of your personality. So the ascendant is your frame of reference. In case you want to know what the hell is the ascendant, so you're screwed into place. And it gives you a frame of reference. When you are anywhere you are, you're a finite being. When you're in your avatar, you're walking around. Stop and stand and look around you in a 360-degree reference. You have a reference point. You can look on the map and point on the map. I am here. You go to the mall. It says you are here. That is your lugna, your ascendant, your reference point. Your reference point will tell you what your personality is in this life. And it will give you a sense of limited identity in this life. My name is Michael William Denny. I am a Leo with moon, debilitated moon because moon was new. I was born on a new moon. That's my perspective in this life. That's my lugna. That's my personality. That's how I interact with how life comes at me. So that's the first character. Is the ascendant. So let's put numbers by it. Number 1. Oops, that I didn't say to go there. I said to go here. Do what I'm telling you. Ascendant. That's number 1. That's the first out of the 10 characters in your play. The second character is the moon. The moon is your experience. It is how you experience. So the ascendant, I may have thrown the word, how you experience your life. It's really your perspective. It is your vantage point, which of course is going to, have a lot to do with how you experience things. But the moon is your actual experience. You experience life through your emotions. And as I said before, you are either driving forward with your essence emotions, which are the emotions you want to experience, which is love, joy, fun, adventure, pleasure, camaraderie. These are the emotions that drive you forward in life. They give your life meaning and purpose, and they make you enjoy the experience. And then you have your reactive emotions: sadness, fear, anger, loneliness, resentment, jealousy, envy, shame, guilt. These are experiences, and you experience them, but they are reactions. So again, bear in mind, if your life is consumed by these, you are simply reacting to life. What is missing in your life is that you haven't, for whatever reason, you have not been able to access the emotions that drive you forward. Number 1, your joy. Most important emotion in life is joy. Listen up. You've been lied to about the nature of the matrix. What if I told you that you could hack into the matrix? I've done it, and I can teach you how to do it. Click below to watch the free video that I put on my YouTube channel a few years ago that has since gone viral. I discovered that the matrix, like everything else in the universe, operates from certain rules. There are 5 rules that govern the matrix. And then there is one secret technique that, to my knowledge, nobody else has figured out, that allows you to hack into the matrix, understanding these 5 rules and using these 5 rules to control, manipulate, and change reality so that you can have exactly what you want out of life. Don't allow yourself to be deceived by the victim mentality that has been thrust upon you by everybody in the media and in modern society, in history, in religion. You have the power to hack into the matrix, to control your life, and have the life of your dreams. Click below, watch the free video, and then learn how you can do what I've been doing for myself over the past few years. That is your essence. Joy is the continuous state, if you want to call it bliss. Like the soul is an infinite bliss. I know this because I've experienced it once, and I think the reason why I experienced it is so I can explain it to you. It's my job. You never, by the way, anybody who's a shaman who wants to have a shamanic experience in this world, if you want to experience that, you will never have a shamanic experience just for you. Maybe it will be primarily so that you can understand things, but it's going to drive you forward in your life. It's not entertainment. If you're into shamanism for entertainment, you are only going to get lost in your unconscious mind. If you're a true shaman, you have visions and experiences so that you can help and teach others. I had an experience where I feel very confident that I went to my soul nature and I experienced it. I was 7 years old when it happened. And when I got there, I experienced pure bliss. My identity went away, and I merged with that bright white light, which is brighter than anything. Anything you can imagine would burn your eyeballs out. It's brighter than anything you could possibly imagine. The bliss was orgasmic. It was almost, I want to say painful, but it was almost like if we were to have that kind of, it's like, oh, it's just so intense and orgasmic, and and I lost myself in that. Or that's why people like sex. We like sex because the orgasm is, for a brief moment, we have a bad copy of what it's like to be in the soul. We have that, where we just completely get lost in that bliss. That is your essence. Your essence is that orgasmic bliss. And then we have other emotions that help drive us through life. Love. When you love somebody, again, I've only experienced this once in my life, where you love somebody. I'm not talking about obsession or any of that weird codependent crap. I'm talking about when you honestly love somebody, like what makes you the happiest is to know that they're happy. And you do things just to see their face light up. And that's all. That's it. That's all you need from them. You don't need anything else from them. You just need to see that look on their face, and that gives you, everything. Love, bliss, love, joy, friendship, happiness, camaraderie, pleasure, art, music, philosophy, a comfy chair. I'm wearing this, it's kind of cold, so I got my little priest outfit on here. And whatever this is, velvety sort of feeling. It's very comfortable. I'm having my tea, which tastes really good. Those are all the positive experiences, the positive emotions. And so without wanting you to feel judged or feel guilty, if your life is not driven primarily, if you don't have and again, I'm not talking about if tragedy happens and somebody dies, you're going to be, your experience is going to be negative emotions. But if we're talking about the whole of your life, if the whole of your life has more negative than positive emotions, it means that there's nothing wrong with you. It just means that you're not operating from the proactive emotions that drive you forward in life. So, character number 1, the ascendant, your vantage point. Character number 2, the moon, your emotions, your experience. I want you to start talking about your emotions as your experience. Please, again, for now I'll stop hammering away, but please accept this. You must experience your emotions. You must. Do not try and avoid them. If you have the reactive emotions, sadness, anger, fear, pain, misery, then you have to work through them. The way out is through. If you avoid them, they become stronger. Trying to avoid your negative emotions will only make them stronger. And if we're playing the video game, your life meter will start to run out. Okay? So that's the second character, is your experience, which we call the moon. The third character in the play of human life is the sun. The sun is your identity. Now, this tells you a lot. 2,000 years ago, astrology was neither Western or Eastern. It was just astrology. It was a science that was created by a culture that no longer exists. It was a city-state in what is now Afghanistan. They called it Bactria back then. And this city-state had a science and a religion, and it worshipped the stars and the planets. And so they created the 12 signs and the 12 houses and all the stuff that we know of as astrology. But there was multiple ways of looking at it. There was the sidereal zodiac, and there was the tropical zodiac. The tropical zodiac is the Earth relative to the sun. That's what Western astrology is. Western astrology, the reason why they call your sun sign your sign is because Western astrology is focused around the identity, the ego. Eastern astrology, Vedic astrology, because they had a pre-existing astrological science they called Jyotish, which means the lights. It was the lunar mansions. So they already had a basis of lunar astrology, which means that they looked at the journey of the soul from the experiential aspect of the emotions of the mind. What does the moon do? Again, it reflects the light of the sun. It reflects, it experiences the soul. The soul needs to have the moon. It needs to be able to look at itself in the mirror, because the moon is also a mirror. The sun needs to look at itself to experience itself. Oh, that's what I look like. You know, I was watching something on YouTube. I went looking for it because I wanted to see it again. It was some film that was shot in the 70s of some French guy who was contacting an uncontacted tribe in New Guinea. You know, people talk about the uncontacted tribes in the rainforest. But if I'm right, I might be wrong about this, but there are as many or more uncontacted tribes in New Guinea. And I guess I like that one more because the uncontacted tribes in like Brazil are a much later representation of human evolution, because human beings, they came out of Africa, then they split off, they went over into Europe, then they went over into Asia, and then you have the Asians come over across the bridge and they become Native Americans, and then they make their way all the way down into Brazil. So there's been a lot of change, a lot of evolution. They've had interactions with Neanderthals and Denisovans, which were another other human species, and so they're not a pure representation of the earliest modern human. The tribes in New Guinea are a snapshot. If you go back 50,000 years, that's what human beings were. And so I like that because I'm looking straight into my own past. It's what I love about watching. And in any case, so this French guy's there, and he's showing, he's doing things which now I would just crack somebody's head open for doing. First off, leave them the hell alone. You have no idea if you're going to give them some fucking disease or what. Leave them the hell alone. If they've been left alone for 50,000 years, just leave them alone. So this guy's showing up, and he's doing things like showing them matches, and they're freaking out, and they can't believe what they're saying. They're afraid to touch the guy because he's got white skin, and they don't know if he's like a ghost or whatever, and they're so afraid of him, and everything that they can't believe what they're looking at. The guy with the camera, you see the guy go up to the camera, and he's got like this stone axe, which is, I love it. It's Paleolithic. It's a stone axe. It's a branch with a rock attached to it with a bunch of vines wrapped around it. It looks like, something out of the Flintstones. And he's got this over his shoulder, and he's touching and grabbing his axe like he's ready to just whack you over the head with the axe in case you're going to come at him. And they give him a mirror. This guy's never seen his reflection in anything other than, a river or a pond. And here's this thing. It's just this mirror. It's a mirror about this big. And he hands him the mirror, and the guy takes it, and he immediately takes a leaf, and he covers it over. And he looks behind it because he's just flipped out by his own, who is that guy? And why can't it's totally flipping him out. So that's what it's like for the soul. I'm giving you that because the moon is the mirror for the soul. The soul, when it's in bliss, it doesn't know what it looks like. It doesn't have an objective experience of itself. When you bring the moon into it, you have an experience. It's the mirror, and you get to look at yourself and you go, that's me? Wow. That's the moon. Without the moon, you cannot experience yourself. If you're living your life without your feelings, all of them, you can't experience yourself. You're dead to yourself. All right. So the sun and the moon, this is the relationship. It's the ego. The sun is the identity. It's the limited identity that you have, and this is what the soul is trying to experience so that it can go back to infinity again. All right, so that's the third character, is the sun. Fourth character in this play is Mars. Mars is your willpower, your strength, your determination, your bravery. It's your drive. It's your physical energy. It's what drives you through life. And so Mars is very closely connected to ego. So the Sun and Mars are best friends. Because the ego, in order to stay a limited ego, and again, without the ego, you can't have an experience. You can't look at yourself unless you have an ego. An ego has to be able to see itself. So the Sun needs the Sun needs Mars, and Mars says to the Sun, "I am your servant, and I am going to fight. Literally, I am going to fight for you to have an experience of your own identity." So Mars is a very egotistical planet. And people who have strong Mars in different places are very egotistical, they're very controlling. I've got Mars in the 3rd house. This is why, if you wondered why I'm so intolerant, you know, when people ask questions or when I get into flame wars with people, it's because I got a strong Mars. My Mars is fighting really hard for my identity. You judge me one way or another, I could care less. Mars is my best friend. Mars is also your physical strength, your health. Mars is extremely important for health. Here's something important to know about Mars. Mars is also a malefic, which means that Mars will destroy. And because Mars is a fighter, and a fighter goes out, he destroys the enemy. He doesn't negotiate with the enemy, he kills them. You know, according to Greek mythology, Mars, you know, uses the skins of his enemies as his sheets on his bed. You know, he clothes himself in the skins of his enemies. So Mars has no compassion because he is completely devoted to bringing the ego, the limited self, and protecting the limited self and conquering territory, which means breaking through. So let's talk about anger for a moment. Anger is an extremely healthy emotion. It's also very destructive. And this is why the moon is so important, because the moon, your mind, your meditative mind, you experience the anger through your meditative mind, but your meditative mind will say, hey, let's take a look and see what kind of actions we should take, because Mars just wants to act. You know, you've seen what happens. Somebody attacks me. I delete their comment, or I'll spend a half an hour tearing that person to shreds. Whereas all the people who say nice things, sometimes I'll put a smiley face. Oh, thank you. I want to go and fight. Who do I got to fight? So that's Mars. That's me. I got a strong Mars in the 3rd house, and it's my Aruda. So that's just who I am. But that's also why I'm good at what I do, because I am fighting for you also. I'm fighting against the bullshit out there. The bullshit New Age nonsense, or the old school religionists. I'm kicking the crap out of both of them, and I'm doing it because I care about you. I want for you to be safe, to have your religious and spiritual experiences. And I want to go and take out all the bad guys for you. I want to go knock them out so that you can breathe and experience your spirituality. That's whether I'm doing a good job or not is up for you to decide. But that's what Mars is also doing when I'm trying to do my job here. All right, so that's number 3, which is Mars, the energy, the willpower, bravery. And then the 4th character in the play is Jupiter. Jupiter is the priest. Jupiter is the advisor. Jupiter is Santa Claus. Jupiter is Grandpa. You know, when your mom's not looking, Grandpa says, here, have a sip of my beer. Here's some candy. Here's $20. Don't tell your mom. That's Jupiter. Jupiter is the wise old grandfather, grandmother who's looking at the child and sees themselves in it. You know, the parent doesn't see themselves in the child as much because the parent is still trying to make their life. You know, the dad is still trying to get his name out in the world and get his job, and the mom is trying to do the cooking and the cleaning. She's wrapped up in, you know, protecting the kids, and then her identity as being a mother. Am I a good mother? They're still wrapped up in their selfish, you know, and the kids. You know, this is, as somebody who has Ketu in the 5th house who doesn't want kids, and I hear people talking about kids, I try to smile, but inside I go, oh God, you're so full of yourself. Look at my kids. Well, I can't because of my kids, and my kids and my kids and my kids. It's just like, oh my God, shut the hell up. I get it. You have kids. So parents really, really can't sit back and just with all of their love and emotion look on the kids and look at them from a distance and say, gosh, I want to help you with your life. Because they have their own, they're projecting all of their kid issues onto their kid, and they're you know, whatever bad habits they have or whatever screwed up things, they're doing that to their kid, as well as working through all of their issues. They're really wrapped up in themselves. It's very hard for parents to be objective. Except, you know, the ideal is the mother. The only truly objective being in the universe is the mother. When the mother is there with the child, the infant especially, and looks at the infant and is reflecting back without any agenda, you know, what that infant can be. And the truth is that human mothers can rarely, if ever, do that. They're driven by that, but they've got their own.
First caught my attention about celestial Qigong was how incredibly simple and easy to do the moves were. My teachers taught me that the most advanced high-level energy work was always incredibly simple. I have been practicing and teaching celestial Qigong for over 25 years, and listen, I could tell you what the benefits have been for me, but why don't I let you hear it from some of my students, average people just like you, who have been practicing this ancient and transformative energy practice that I call celestial Qigong.
Hello, I'm Greg. I wanted to talk about celestial Qigong and what it has done for me. And the first time I did it, and I think after about 3 or 4 movements, I remember this look on my face going, whoa, I'm feeling a lot of energy here. Wow, this is amazing. It really helped me to start having visions. I mean, I'm talking about actual visions right behind my closed eyelids. And it's just really amazing what it's done for me.
Hi, I wanted to make a quick video of a testimony of my experiences with celestial Qigong, which have been nothing short of miraculous and amazing. It is a peace, a union, the ability to manifest what I want, that I am in true total control of my life.
Hello, my name is Maclovia. I have been practicing celestial Qigong for about 6 months because I was having depression. It has connected me to my higher self. My 9-year-old does it with me, and he says every night, Mom, Qigong was good tonight.
Every night, me and my mom do it. It's like a protection spell. Yeah, I just want to thank you. This has really been good for me. Thank you.
Grandparents, on the other hand, they can look at you objectively, and they want to help you, and they don't have an ego attachment. They're just there to serve and to help because they know they're on their way up. And you're coming up, and you're reminding them. This is why old people like being around little kids, because it reminds them and it helps them look back on themselves and to see that this life is a beautiful, joyful experience, and they get teary-eyed, and that's why they do that. So that's Jupiter. Jupiter is like grandpa. And then you have 5. Are we at number 5 here? 5, then we have Venus. Venus is your pleasure. So this is why Venus and the moon have a close connection, because they're about experience. The moon is your actual experience of life, positive or negative. It's your emotional experience. Venus is your pleasure. So Venus is friendship, love, joy that comes from camaraderie, from being with friends, relationships. Venus's primary motivation of pleasure is through relationship. Sex, love, romance, marriage. This is Venus. So Venus is, without Venus, there would be no pleasure in this life. So you gotta have Venus. You gotta. And I've worked with people and I've looked at people's charts where Ketu, we'll talk about Ketu. When you have Ketu and Venus conjunct, you have somebody that never can get any real pleasure out of this life. It's very difficult. Whatever pleasure they do have just dies almost instantly. And it's a very tragic way to live, because they really want to experience pleasure and they seek after it, but once they get it, it just disappears. It's like remember those gums that you put it like those striped gums. You put it in your mouth and in the first 10 seconds, and then it tastes really crappy. That's what life is like for people who have Ketu and Venus conjunct. They just can't get any pleasure out of it. It's very sad, and it means that person is destined to be spiritual, and the only way to get true pleasure has to be through spiritual means. So anyway, we'll talk about that. But that's Venus. Venus is your pleasure, your friendships, your relationships. And then 6, interesting that I had it connected to 6. 6 is Saturn. Saturn is the judge. You have to have a judge. You have to. You have to have limitations. Saturn is limitation. Saturn is time. And what I've written down here is that Saturn is the motivator. Now that sounds like it's at odds, because Saturn brings negativity, quote unquote. Saturn brings disease, old age, death, judgment, karma, punishment. Saturn brings lessons. But if it weren't for death, you would not be motivated. All of the challenges in your life, all of the limitations, you would not be motivated to go do anything, because you would have infinity. And by the way, people who have a victim mentality think they're immortal. Victim mentality is the epitome of infantile childishness. Victim mentality is a temper tantrum. It's a 3-year-old pounding their fist on the ground. And so this is another reason why I have such little tolerance for victim mentality. Because even though with your mouth you are saying how horrible life is and what is happening to you and the evil archons and the government and whoever it is doing it to us, they're doing it to me. I have such limited tolerance for it, because you think you're infinite in your physical body. You think that you're immortal, because only somebody who is immortal has the time to sit around and complain and not do anything about it. Wanting to disconnect from your feelings. Again, I'm trying to not, I know that some people have gone through actual major trauma, some traumas that I can't even begin to comprehend. So I do understand that. But this is what's helped me. What's helped me is to get out of my victim mentality. What helps me is to go, hey man, get the fuck out of yourself. You're going to die. Do you want to die sitting here feeling shitty? Or do you want to go do something about it? Get the fuck up off your ass and go do something about it. So Saturn and Mars work together this way, because Saturn will give you willpower to go out and fight. Mars will give you willpower to go out and fight. And Saturn will remind you, You're going to die someday. Wake the fuck up. You don't like that? Do something about it. If you keep acting in ways that go away from, that pull you away from the motivative feelings. Remember, you've got two kinds of feelings. You've got reactive and you've got proactive. The proactive feelings is your soul seeking to experience this life and to have fun in this adventure. That's why, by the way, that's why we admire people who are happy. We admire them. Because we realize on an unconscious level, we go, that person has got it figured out. They're proactive in their life. You know, have you seen people that just nothing gets them down? I'm not talking about people who are in denial. That's a whole other realm of thing I'm not friends with. But people who are, you know, no matter what happens to them, they pick themselves up and they go, yep, that was tough, but gosh darn it, I can get what I want out of this life. I'm going to go get it. You heard about people like that, like people in business, you know, like people who are like moguls in business who make millions and millions of dollars. They have this awareness where it's like, you know what, I can get it if I want. And I don't care how much, you know, you put in front of me. I'm going to go get it. And I don't care if it takes me a year or 10 years. I am going to become a billionaire and nothing's going to stop me. And, you know, those are the people who, you know, have that ability. And if you have that in life, they pick themselves back up and they just keep going after it. I admire those people. I want to be like that. So Saturn and Mars together give you that ability. These so-called negative planets give you that ability. Mars gives you the ability to fight, and Saturn gives you the wisdom to go, holy crap, I need to get up off my ass. I'm going to die if I don't. When you get Mars and Saturn together, you have a warrior who cannot be beat. You have that warrior that no matter how many times you knock him down, he gets back up and he wins. Rocky Marciano, perfect example. I'll give you two heavyweight champions, Rocky Marciano and Michael, who's the guy? Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson and Rocky Marciano. Mike Tyson was, you know, just like he was unbeatable until somebody actually stood up to him and fought him and learned how to bob and weave and took a couple of punches and kept, you know, Mike Tyson didn't know how to fight after 3 rounds. If you lasted more than 3 rounds, he didn't know what to do. He got frustrated and he got sloppy and he got scared and then he got beat. And so that's why in his later years, he got his ass kicked, you know, because he didn't know how to just go in there and just knock him out. And that's what he did. He would just come out and boom, and just knock you out. Just so fast and so fierce, and he'd just take you out. You know, I remember, you know, back in the 80s, and we would pay for the pay-per-view, and, you know, and I remember we were at some bar somewhere, and he was going to fight, and it might have even been round 1. And I went to go look at something, and I heard this, yay! The fight was over. I was so pissed. I didn't even get to see it. That's Mike Tyson. Rocky Marciano. So Mike Tyson is just like Mars. Mars all by itself. Mars, you know, all by itself, it needs perseverance, and if it doesn't have that, then it can't keep going. Rocky Marciano is Saturn with, boy, there's a lot of hearts. Somebody's just loving on me. Look at all those hearts flying up there. I don't know if you can see it in my screen here. I see all these little things like thumbs up and hearts. First time I did it, I thought that there were orbs. I was like, could you see that? I thought I was seeing orbs or something. Even I get into the New Age weirdness. So Rocky Marciano is when you take Mars and Saturn. Saturn is like the stone. And people said that Rocky Marciano had hands like stone. And then you have Saturn, which just makes you durable as hell. This is the thing about your difficulties, your challenges. The things that make you want to, you know, lie down and become a victim. Those things temper you and make you strong. You know, tempered steel. Tempered steel is it's put in the fire over and over and over until it just becomes super strong and unbendable. I was watching something about on Netflix about guys, different strength guys, power lifters throughout the ages. Talking about this one guy in the late 1800s who was just naturally really strong, and he was a strong man. And what his show was is that they would have these bars in front of him, and he would bend the bars and walk through and come out onto the stage. And so every night what they do is they would take the bent bars back to somebody, and the guys would heat it up and put it back. Just heat it up so they could bend it back, and then they'd put it back in. But one night they gave it to some metal worker who tempered it, because that's what you're supposed to do. And he just kept on refiring it and putting it back in and refiring it, and he tempered it, and the bars were really strong. So the guy comes out to do his thing, and he couldn't open the bars. He ended up just barely opening and barely squeezing, but it took everything out of him, and he collapsed afterwards, and he couldn't go on with the show. That's Saturn. Saturn tempers you. So if you're having challenges and difficulty in this life, it's because your soul said, I want to be strong as steel. You get Mars and Saturn together, and you have somebody who cannot be beaten. You have Rocky Marciano. No matter how many times you knock him out, he gets back up, and in the 12th round, boom, he takes you out. That's Saturn and Mars. I'm lucky. I've got Saturn in the 3rd house and Mars in the 3rd house and Saturn in the 6th. That's one of the reasons why, as I get older, I get stronger, I get healthier, and nobody fucks with me. People fucked with me all the time when I was a kid. I mean, I was bullied all the time. Oh my God. My brother bullied me. I got bullied by all the older kids in school, the jocks, the surfers. Everybody bullied me when I was a little kid. Saturn. That was Saturn in the 6th house. That was my soul said, you're gonna be a tough motherfucker. So all of the challenges in your life are there to temper you and make you strong. This is what Saturn is really trying to do. So get up off your ass, stop whining and complaining, wipe your eyes, and go make some fucking thing happen. Otherwise, when you're done with this life, you're going to go, fuck. I wasted all that time crying and complaining. I got to do it again. Remember I was telling you about when I was a kid, Redondo Beach Pier, and I got a pocket full of quarters in the 70s playing Galaga and Pac-Man and Defender and whatever other games are out there, and Joust. I'm trying to remember all the games that I played. And you're playing the game, and you've only got one guy left, and you're cussing and you're screaming in the game, and nothing's happening. And you're trying, and you're at that same place again. This is level 15, and you got to get to the next one, and then you lose, and you get so mad, and you stomp. Then you smile and you laugh, and you pull out another quarter, and you do it again. Same thing with this life. I know that you think, if you're going through challenges, I know that you think that this life is hard. I know, I do. I really do. I know how tough it is. And I know how much you want to give up. I know what that's like. Probably more than you realize. I know what that's like. But those experiences are tempering you. And if not in this lifetime, because we have multiple lifetimes we got to live. If not in this lifetime, then in the next one. Trust me, next time around, if you do not surrender, if you do not succumb, if you choose to stay proactive, next time around you are going to run this whole show. That's how it works. All right, so that's Saturn. Saturn says you have multiple lives, my friend. Saturn says, listen, you came here, remember last lifetime you sat on your ass and you complained? So I am here to make things more difficult, to motivate you to get up off your ass and make something out of it. Otherwise, I'm going to keep making you miserable. That's what Saturn will do. Saturn is like, I wish I knew what it was like. I wish I could explain it. But imagine that there's a force. Imagine a wall. What is the name? There's a movie I just saw that really, I'll try and remember the name of the movie. Imagine that Saturn is like a wall, and you want to get to the other side of that wall. And you have to turn around and go out in the other way. There's a fire behind you, which is your life. And the wall is here. And you're trying to escape your problems by running away. And so you go up against this wall and you think if you can push against this wall hard enough, you can make it break. And what ends up happening is that the harder you push on the wall pushes you further into the fire. And imagine you're pushing against this wall and it pushes you against the fire. You're resisting the fire. What ends up happening is you just burn up. But if you turn around and walk into the fire, that wall will then disappear. Saturn is like that. When you fight against your karmic lessons, Saturn just sits on you and becomes heavier and heavier and heavier. The harder you fight against Saturn, the harder he squeezes. And when you surrender and you say, I get it, I get it, I get it. Tell me what I need to do. Tell me what I need to do. If you want to work with Saturn, best thing to do is say, tell me what I need to do. How the hell do I get out of this? And Saturn will say, thank you. I've been waiting to tell you this whole time. You've been fighting with me this whole time. Here's what you do. It's going to be tough, but you got to climb this mountain. You got to do that. And blah, 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 blah. Go do it. Here, Mars, help him out. Give him some strength. Give him some willpower. Mars comes in and says, let's go fight those motherfuckers. Mars says, Mike Tyson knocked you down. Get back up. If you keep challenging Mike Tyson, he's going to get frustrated and he's going to complain and be a little kid and he's going to stop fighting. And you'll be able to knock him out. Get back up. All right, so that's Saturn. We're at number 7. The character number 7 is Mercury. Mercury is your intellect. Mercury is the map maker. So you're in your video game. You need somebody to give you a map to know where to go. He's also the tool maker. Mars is also an engineer as well, but Mars likes to build things. He puts his energy to building. Mercury sits around and invents tools for you to use. He also makes the map. Now, you go to your average Western doctor and you say, where is the mind? He's going to say, oh, it's up here in the brain. That's because we Westerners do not understand what the mind is. We think that the intellect is the mind. Western society is great. It's created cities and all the technical marvels of the first world is from the intellect. That's great. But the intellect by itself does not know anything outside of the confines of its three-dimensional video game. So if you're trying to figure out the universe, you are going to be you're going to be very upset. Mercury wants to help you figure things out. So that's good. If you're trying to figure things out, that's good because Mercury is trying to do that. But bear in mind, Mercury, the intellect in I don't know if I'm doing this right. Intellegere, to pick apart from among. The word to read in Latin is leggere, to pick apart. I'm reading my notes here. What's happening there are these little weird symbols, and my brain is taking those symbols and picking it apart and putting meaning to it, and then I know what that word means, and then I can put it into words. That's all the intellect. 100% intellect. I mean, I bag on the intellect all the time, but my entire career is based on me using my intellect, communicating with words from language and others, and taking wisdom and trying to put it into words. So the intellect is absolute. Without it, you wouldn't know where to go. Where the hell do I go? Your GPS is your map. That's why the intellect doesn't understand that there's an infinite life out there. People who are on the bottom end of the intellect become atheists and agnostics, because the only thing that they can understand is what's right in front of them. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. But that's the intellect, the map maker, Mercury, the intellect. All right, and then let's see, how do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Anyway, I forget. I've got my numbers all screwed up. But here at number 9, which is where we should be at. Number 9, here we get to Rahu, north node of the moon. Remember that the moon is the most important character here. So you would be absolutely within the realms of reality if you said that the 3 most important planets are Moon, Rahu, and Ketu, because Rahu and Ketu are aspects of the moon. They're the extremes. The moon came here to experience. The moon is what drives you to reincarnate. The moon is the memories. All of your past life memories is in the moon. The moon is also all of the wisdom that has come from all of the ancestors. All of the ascended masters can be accessed through the moon, through your meditative mind. And then we have the extremes of the moon, which is Rahu and Ketu. Rahu is the north node of the moon. It is your innovator. So Rahu and Mercury are very closely aligned because Mercury is the map maker, Mercury is the inventor, and Mercury tries to figure things out. Rahu expands, especially Mercury. Rahu expands everything, but Mercury especially. Rahu and Mercury together, you've got somebody that really, I mean, that's somebody who can go deep and expand and innovate and will become far ahead of his or her time. Rahu and Mercury go very well together like that. But Rahu by itself is the innovator, and then Rahu is your intense desire to learn. Remember that the moon came here to experience. The soul uses the moon to come here to experience. Through the filter of the moon is your emotions. And the soul needs the emotions in order to experience, to reflect back on itself. Rahu is the driving force that says, I want to learn more. Give me more. Rahu on the negative side is seen as the trickster, is seen as Rahu will tell you what your addictions are, what your obsessions are. Rahu wants to experience physical life. So Rahu drives you to incarnate in this physical life and wants you to have all the money and all the sex and all of the fame and all of the glory and all of the whatever. So Rahu, when it's not doing well, will turn you into a thief, a murderer, a rapist, a serial killer. So you can see these from Rahu. Rahu will show you that. Find out where Rahu and Ketu are, and you'll find where your serial killers are, and where your rapists, and where your thieves, and politicians, those people on Wall Street. Again, another Netflix movie. I've been watching a lot of Netflix. Something that just came out, and some woman was running. You probably know the movie I'm talking about. She's running a gambling game, and she's doing it legally, and she gets wrapped up with the wrong people, and then the government comes in and tries to put her on trial, and the judge after looks at it and says, you know, whatever it is, whatever crimes you committed will be committed in the next 10 seconds on Wall Street. So, you know, basically gives her a pass. Wall Street and Rahu, these guys are ripping you off. I mean, think about it. You know, Wall Street is all about just numbers on a page that don't exist. You know, by the way, money doesn't exist anymore. Technically, money never existed because money has always been symbolic. True bartering, you know, the reason why we have the word fee for money is because originally our ancestors didn't have money, they had cows. And if you wanted something and you had to pay for something, the only thing that you could pay somebody with was something of actual value, so you gave them a cow. A cow is what you got your cheese and your milk and your meat and your clothing and your, your bones and your tools, and so gave them a cow. That's money. That's why I charge a fee for all of my services, because the money gives me the ability to go get the stuff, which is the cow. I need the stuff. We all need stuff. Even spiritual teachers need stuff. So I'm going to charge you money so that I can do my work and give you something you think of is of value to you. If not, nobody's forcing you. You don't have to buy it. If you think it's of value and my time is of value, you want my time, you're going to have to give me some money. You're going to have to give me a cow. Anyway, I got off track. So, but money doesn't exist now, because even originally money was silver and gold. Silver and gold does nothing for you either. You can make fancy things out of it, but you can't wipe your ass with it. You can't eat it. You can't screw it. You can't do anything really. You can't make a fire out of it. You can't wear it as clothing. It won't keep you warm. Doesn't really do anything. It's just a symbol. And then we went to paper money, which was just an IOU. If you didn't know that, your dollar bill is an IOU from the government that says, I owe you $1 worth of silver. Of course, that doesn't mean that anymore. And because of Wall Street and bankers, they went and got rid of that. They legislated it. In case you don't know that, it was legislated that money would no longer have any real value, which meant that bankers could do whatever the hell they wanted with it. And so really money doesn't exist anymore. I don't use cash for anything anymore. I traveled to Australia. I never once used cash. It doesn't exist. It's just an idea. All right, so that's Rahu. And then we have number 10. This is the 10th character in your play, and this is Ketu, south node of the moon. Ketu is he's in the right spot at the end. We could say that Ketu is the true master. The moon is what gets us here. It's the lens through which we come here. It's our experience. So if the moon is our experience and Rahu is our desire to experience more, Ketu is game over. When your last man dies and you're playing the game, pew, 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 that's Ketu. Ketu is running the whole show. And when Ketu comes into the picture, he'll get rid of everything. On the positive side, Ketu says, look, this was just all a game. Doesn't mean anything. You are infinite. You don't have an ego. You don't have a sense of self. So a lot of people, they want to escape through death. Unfortunately, trying to escape through death means you're just going to come back again. But ultimately, true Ketu has no agenda. And if you look Ketu in the face and you say, yep, this game is over and you're going to do it again, Ketu goes, all right, whatever. So if you need to leave this life, that's not Ketu. You're not spiritual. There's nothing spiritual about wanting to end your life. Ketu is the true ending of life, which is getting to the truth. The truth of everything is that you are infinite, which is, from the experience of the moon, is nothing. Your mind thinks that Ketu is emptiness. It's not. But that's what we think it is. But Ketu says this is all an illusion anyway. It's just a game. So Ketu can be very helpful, because Ketu can say, man, you're really taking yourself very seriously as you're pounding on the bed. I hate this life. Ketu says, oh my God, you are taking yourself so seriously. You're nothing. You're just infinite. You're just an infinite experience trying to have a finite experience. It's all nothing. It's not that big of a deal. Just relax. Ketu on the positive side says, I love you and I accept you no matter who you are. If you have Ketu in the 7th house, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because on the other side you'll have Rahu in the 1st house, which means that you're going to want people to look at me, experience me, tell me who I am. Your ego is going to be going crazy wanting to be acknowledged. But on the other hand, when it comes to relationships, you're going to be like, relationships are really not, they don't bring fulfillment. So, because you don't need other people, you're the best person to be, you're the best friend people can have. People who have Ketu in the 7th house are people who are the best friends you'll ever have, because you'll call them up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and you call me up at 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm gonna say, screw you, I'm going to sleep, man. Leave me alone. I'll have my ringer off because I don't want you calling me 4 o'clock. Ketu, if you call Ketu at 4 o'clock in the morning, you go, yeah, I was just sleeping, but sleeping is just an illusion. What do you want? My life is coming apart at the seams, and Ketu thinks to himself, yeah, that sounds like a bunch of nonsense, but okay, I'll listen. And so your experience of Ketu is, wow, they listen. They don't have any judgment because they know it's just nonsense. It's just nonsense. Ketu doesn't come to you and say, come on, get over it. Come on, it'll be better. Ketu doesn't do that. Ketu goes, says, I'm going to kill myself. Ketu goes, really? All right. Sorry to hear that. Ketu, you say, oh my God, I met the woman of my dreams. And Ketu goes, yeah, I heard that one before. Great. Good for you. Your experience is that, God, he's just such a good friend. He just listens. And I love that. Ketu will do that. So that's the positive side. Ketu will be your best friend. The negative side of Ketu is that he walks in with a bomb strapped to his chest and he blows himself and everybody up. That's what terrorism is. If you didn't know what terrorism is not, specifically, we're not talking about the asshole who sits in his bunker somewhere and sends people off to kill themselves. We're not talking about that worthless piece of shit. We're talking about the person who actually puts the bomb on his chest and walks in and that person is Ketu. That person says that they are willing to give up their life, that I want to get to the truth so bad that I'll give my life up and I will kill you to show everybody what the truth is. Sacrificing. And that is the negative side of Ketu. Ketu doesn't have a head, so Ketu in his most negative form has no idea what the hell is going on. Just he believes whatever he is told. Oh, there's 70 virgins up there, and the evil Western Empire did it, and if I go kill a bunch of people, that will somehow bring God glory. Okay, give me that bomb. I'll walk in there. Ketu says, I have nothing left to live for. Who is it that the suicide bombers are on the ground? Little kids, women. Who are the people that suffer the most in war-torn countries? Little kids and women. Men can go out and fight. Women lose their husbands. They become sex slaves. They can't, in those third world countries, they can't really go out and create a living for themselves. Their whole connection is going to be their family, and that's all gone. They got nothing left to live. Yeah, give me a bomb. I'll walk in front of it. Those guys did it? Sure, I'll go and blow them up. Little kids have lost their parents. They watched some bomb come down and blow them up. They don't care which side. All they know is that their parents are gone. Oh, those guys did it? Give me the bomb. I'll go kill myself. That's the worst side of Ketu. Ketu says, I'm going to liberate you from this. I'm going to liberate you. But you have to understand that this liberation is earned. You can't just decide you don't want to be in this life anymore. I mean, you can go blow your brains out if you want. I hope you won't. I don't want you to do that. I hope you won't do that. But you can. But that's not going to liberate you. Because if you're doing that, it's because unconsciously You are having a temper tantrum. Life isn't going the way you want. I'm not judging it. It may be really very tragic, but life isn't going the way that you want, and you want out. And that's not what Ketu is. Ketu says, I did that. I did it. Now I know what that's like. I don't have to do that again. I can leave now. Okay, I'm done. And then Ketu says, I've done that human thing. I experienced everything that there is. And now I don't need to go back to that. I've got someplace else to go. I've mastered this human life, and now I get to go someplace else. So the liberation that comes, spiritual liberation, means that you've earned it. You played the game, you earned it. And you get, because when you get to this is I'm talking about video games. When you get to the end of the video game and you've passed all the levels, the game is over. But what's the difference? In one, the game is over. Pew, 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 pew. And then you got to pull your quarter out and do it again. In the other one, the game gets to the end and all the party and the whoo and the dancing and all the credits, and you made it. Well, that's it. There's no more game left, but you beat it. And now, if you want, you can go back and play it again, but it'll be boring because you'll know it'll be boring. Yeah, I've done that. I don't need to do it anymore. That's Ketu. That's true liberation. So these are the 10 characters. The 9 planets plus your ascendant is the drama of this experience. And the moon, again, the whole point of this is that I had an experience, a revelation about how important the moon, the mind is. So now, how do you fully engage in this virtual reality? Through meditation. Meditation is not emptying your mind. I wish I will. One of the biggest complaints, the biggest complaint, not one of the biggest complaint I get from people, especially Westerners who don't have any experiences, they say, oh, I can't meditate. I mean, what do you mean you can't meditate? I can't meditate. I can't empty my mind. I'm not here to tell you to empty your mind. I've never taught that. Everybody else teaches that. That's because we live in a society, and it's getting more and more. Even the societies that have meditative practices, like in India and in China and in Japan, even in those societies now, they are getting the misunderstanding that meditation is emptying the mind. It's not. People who are trying to empty the mind are trying to escape their emotions. And if you're trying to escape your emotions, you're at odds with yourself, because this life is about the moon, which is about experiencing. And the only way you can experience this life is through your emotions. Meditation gives you the ability to sit back and reflect on your experience. When you're wrapped up in it, like when you're in the middle of the game and the thing, you don't have time to experience because you're too busy trying to beat the monster that's coming at you. Meditation gives you a respite where you can gather up all of your feelings and your experiences, and you can have them and work through them. Now, I keep saying that meditation is not emptying the mind. That's not entirely true. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands of ways to meditate. One of the ways that I like to meditate the most is through Qigong. Qigong.thunderwizard.com. Go there. This is the way that I get the most out of my meditations. And there are all kinds of reasons for that. But when I do it, because of who I am, my mind won't stop. I have one of those minds that just won't stop. I mean, I've been talking now nonstop for an hour and a half because I can't stop thinking. This helps me to go on through the rest of my day. I barf all this stuff out onto the screen, and you guys, for whatever reasons, want to listen for reasons I can't comprehend. I'm doing it to barf out all of these thoughts that have jumped. I just can't stop thinking. So when I go to meditate, I am not seeking to empty my mind. I've got all these thoughts bouncing around. So I do Qigong, which gives me this experience, and I feel this energy and this power, and I connect, and I have visions, and I have all this stuff that happens. And then at the end of my meditation, then I get the peacefulness of feeling connected to the infinite. And then I don't have to think anymore. So having an empty mind is the result of meditation. It's like being Mr. Olympia. Mr. Olympia wants to have the biggest muscles possible. The result of having the biggest muscles possible is from working his ass off in the gym. He doesn't go to the gym. He doesn't walk in the gym, his first time and expect to be huge. The gym doesn't automatically give you muscles. You have to get in and push those weights around, and you have to work your ass off. And the end result is you get to, sit in front of the mirror or whatever and flex. I know, I do it all the time. Because I'm in denial of my age. Wow, I'm bigger than that guy. At 55, look at how big I am. That's my issue. But my partner who passed away, Freudian slip. Perhaps I'm healing. My fiance passed away. She loved that. She's one of the reasons I got back into bodybuilding. And she wanted me to sit in front of the mirror and flex. It turned her on. It turned her on that I was looking at myself, she turned her on. So I got rid of all the judgments about that. I don't feel any weird egotistical thing about that. It's like good for you. You're into your health, and look at that. You're into life. It's another way of looking at it. Anyway. So you are a spiritual seeker, a spiritual practitioner, and you want to work from home, you want to work for yourself, and like me, you want to make money doing something that you would do anyway. I have two avenues for you to make money doing what you would do anyway. The first is astrologycertification.thunderwizard.com. You can learn my specific, very unique niche of Vedic astrology, and then if you become certified, I will put you on the astrology.thunderwizard.com page, and people will see your beautiful face. They'll click on you and they can get a reading from you. Like I said, this is easily the most profitable service that I have in my arsenal for myself. Then you'll get your own webpage, joeschmo.thunderwizard.com, and people can go there when you want to give out readings. Now, if you have other things that you want to list on there too, you dog sit, you are a masseuse, you do tarot readings, I don't care what it is. As long as you give me the information, I'll put it on your page. People go to joeschmo.thunderwizard.com. They can see everything that you do. There's another way that you can make money as a thunderwizard.com student, and that is runereadings.thunderwizard.com. Same thing applies there. If you become certified, there's over 36 hours of rune videos that I have on there. All of my rune videos, both public and private, that you can learn from. If you become certified, then I will put you on the runereadings.thunderwizard.com page, and once again, you will get your own page, joeschmo.thunderwizard.com. If you're already an astrologer, you'll have your astrology information, your rune reading information, whatever other things that you want to promote for yourself. Listen, I am not here just to sit here and teach. I'm here to create teachers, and I'm here to teach people who are called to do so to make a good living, sharing the information that they would study on their own anyway. That's how I make my living. I can teach you how to do that. These are two ways to do it. So if you want to get started with that, go to astrologycertification.thunderwizard.com if you want to become an astrologer. If you want to become a rune reader, go to runecertification.thunderwizard.com. Okay, enjoy the video. out of things to say. So those are the 10 characters in life. The moon, the most important thing is the moon. Your emotions are the virtual reality goggles that you come here to experience life. Now, if you are having challenges with that, and many of us are, in fact, if you're not having challenges, you're either on your way out or you're in denial. There's just no way to have this video game without being challenged. Maybe it's an adventure for you. Maybe it's a frightening thing. It's going to be somewhere on that scale of happy, fun adventure or crazy, fucked up, nightmare. And then there's all this stuff in the middle. The moon is how you experience it. And without the moon, we wouldn't have it. And the moon is the most important planet because the moon is what allows you to access the infinite memories of all past humans. It allows you to access all of your past lives. The moon allows you to fully give your soul an experience. And so the two most important things I'm going to share with you is that, number one, in order to get through this life, I'm telling you, again, the most important book I have is The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. Go read that book. It's a tiny little book. It won't cost you a lot. Of all of my teachings, that is the most important one. Find your joy. You don't know what your joy is? That's okay. That's part of the adventure. It's a treasure hunt. I can help you with that. Go to career.thunderwizard.com. I can help you with that. I'm getting this close. I'm gonna create a I got so many projects right now, I'm going crazy, but I am going to create a certification for people to help other people find their joy. And it's great because by helping other people find their joy, you can find your own. Find your joy. Your joy is your soul, which is, remember we talked about you've got two kinds of emotions. You've got proactive and you've got reactive. The proactive emotions are what drive you positively through life. First and foremost, your joy, and then your love, and then your pleasure, and then your happiness and your friendships. Those emotions drive you forward in life. This is why people have kids. Kids give them a reason. For me, it would be a death sentence, but for most people, kids give them a reason gives them a reason to live. Kids were really important back in the day, in ancient times, because people, death was, there was only, if you had 4 or 5 kids, 2 or 3 of them were going to die. So you lived with death. People died all the fucking time. And so you had to have kids, because without kids, there would be no reason to live. The grief would overwhelm you. I mean, I've only lost one really, really important person in my life. I've lost some peripheral people that weren't all that important. But I lost one person that was my whole life. And, not having family or friends made it very challenging. So I understand why in times people they were constantly squirting kids out, because it gave you a reason to live. So you have those feelings that keep you going, and then you have the reactive ones. And when you have an overabundance of reactive feelings, it gets very hard and people want to die. And the moon is what we're here to experience. So if you want to learn more about all of that, I recommend going to astrology.thunderwizard.com. If you want a session where if you don't know what your joy is, you won't scare me. I don't care how fucked up your life has been. I don't care how much pain you're experiencing. I can help you find it. It's going to be challenging. I won't lie to you. If you've had a lot of trauma in your life, I won't lie to you. Finding your joy and then living it is going to be a lot of work. I won't lie to you. But it's the only way out. And if you want, go to career.thunderwizard.com. And what I was saying earlier is I'm going to create a certification program so that people can do that for others. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I think that'll be one of my next projects that I do. And then I'll put you up on the site, and you can, when people go to career.thunderwizard.com, you can be, a counselor. I don't care if you get certified with me. I honestly don't care. But I'll create a training program, and if you want, you can go create your own business. This is, by the way, this is what life coaches really should be. Life coaches should not do anything other than that. A life coach is somebody who should be saying, let's find out what your true joy is, and I'm going to show you the steps you need to take to go experience it. And then you should be done. You shouldn't need a life coach for the rest of your life. This is something you should be able to figure out. And, sometimes you can't. You have to have somebody who can do that for you. I had to do it the hard way. This is how I am. I'm one of those people. I have to learn things the hard way, but that's why I'm such a good teacher, because I'm not just telling you what I read in some fucking book somewhere. I went out and did it, and if I can't do it, I'm not going to teach it. So you can be sure that everything that I teach, especially if I charge you money for it, it's because I proved it in my life, and that's why you're going to have to pay me, because, there's a lot of, there's a lot of blood on that trail that got me to that experience. And if you want it, you're going to have to pay for it. I went and busted my ass. You can pay me with money instead of your own blood. So pick one. Experience is your best teacher. All right, so I've been talking a long time. I'm going to see if there's any questions. By the way, if you're new to this, the best way to interact with me on the Q&A is through questions. On the YouTube channel, I just tell people don't put any comments unless it's a question, because there's sometimes 50, 60 people, and everybody wants to, I agree, I don't agree. My name is so-and-so. I don't care. I want to answer only your questions. So I'm going to look for the questions here, and if there are any, I'll answer them. So Dean Nevins asked a question probably an hour ago. How can I use the 30 Saz rune and possibly Manaj rune to help me become a better martial artist? Excuse me. You're asking that question probably because Jupiter and Moon are important to you in terms of your Mars. So I'm sure there's, by the way, Thor is a combination of Mars, Moon, Jupiter, and Sun. This is why Indra, by the way, was the god of the Vedics. He was the Jehovah of the Vedics, because he represented all of the Aesir. There's the celestial deities and the terrestrial deities, and they're at war with each other. And he represents the combination of all of them. He's Mars, Moon, Sun, and Jupiter. So this means that you want to be a righteous warrior. And by the way, as badass as Mars is, once Jupiter becomes a warrior, which is Jupiter retrograde, when Jupiter becomes retrograde, he becomes the lightning god, and even Mars shits his pants. There's nobody can defeat retrograde Jupiter. And retrograde Jupiter is what you're talking about here. You wanting to use, how can you use 30 cells in the moon? So how? The straight answer is do Qigong, do celestial Qigong. How is that going to help you as a martial artist? I don't know who you're training with, but if you can find somebody who knows how to strike with energy, that's what happens. I haven't practiced my martial art for years, but when I was like training every day, I still have him. He's a friend of mine, a guy who goes around the world teaching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He was, he fought on ESPN as a kickboxer, as a Thai boxer, black belts and all this, and he trains people to go into the octagon and all that now. And last time I saw him, he was afraid of me. He wouldn't get close to me. He would say, the last thing I would want is to be stuck in an elevator with you. Because when I strike with Thurisaz energy. And I can, when I'm training, I can barely tap somebody. And they crumble, biggest, toughest martial artists. So to answer your question, I'm not just trying to brag. To answer your question, the way that you use that is find a martial artist that knows how to take Qigong and put it into practice so that when he strikes you, he's striking you with energy, not just with his muscles. Find somebody who knows what tendon strength is. Tendon strength is, there's people who do, I don't know if you can see it. There's a little thing that pops up. Your tendons pop up. See, I don't know if you can see it or not. Tendons pop up right there. And when you train really hard in energetic martial arts, you get this tendon that pops up when you fist because you intuitively engage your tendons. And when you see that happen, when you see like the Chinese martial arts, when you see them go into a posture, if their tendon pops up, you want to stay the hell away from that guy, because that guy's going to strike with his tendons. He's not going to strike with his fists. And again, that same guy I was telling you about, and I don't know what we were doing, and I got into a posture, and he said, that thing on your forearm, he says, all you Chinese martial artists have that. And I said, that's tendon power. And then you just barely tap somebody. That's what, by the way, Bruce Lee didn't have this. Bruce Lee was just a extremely gifted physical martial artist, but he knew nothing about real Chinese martial arts. He was so good physically that you could teach him something and he would master it physically beyond everybody else, and he never learned the deep things. That's why he created that, his philosophy of martial arts. He really, for those people who knew real martial arts, knew that he didn't really know what he was talking about, but he was so physically gifted that he could fake his way through it. By the way, in case you don't know it, he did get his ass kicked, and there were real, Chinese martial artists that would wipe the floor with him, and he was scared to death of them. He never talked about it because he had a huge ego and he wanted to be the best in the world. And as long as he wasn't around those people who knew the sacred, internal martial arts, he could get away with it. But there were people that I know that were there that saw him walk into the room, or as he's there bragging about him, when one of these masters would walk in the room, he'd go from, I'll take on all comers, to, so let me tell you about the martial art that I practice. Because he knew that they would just wipe the floor with him. Anyway, got off the subject. So the short answer is go train in an internal martial art, and that will answer your question. And then I would chant 30 saj and manaj, and you will see the benefits of that. Mushan Kashyap question, can celestial Qigong be considered to be a water path as opposed to a fire path? Yes. Short answer is yes, it can be. I could get into that. I'm not going to go into that. But short answer to that question is yes. Yes. Celestial Qigong is, a fire path would be an external path, which is what you get most of and which is more superficial. The water path is more frightening, goes deeper. And people, you got to have the ability to handle real power on an emotional and psychological level to do the water path. Looking for the questions again. Donna Kelso question, money's going, replaced by cards, so is it changing to numbers? Okay, so you've answered your own question. Dono Kelso question, Qigong, is it like Tai Chi? Tai Chi is a form of Qigong. Yes. Dean Nevins question, from what you described about Ketu, it seems like he's very similar to Hella. Is that accurate? Yeah. Yeah, because, technically you're right if you say Hella is the goddess of death. Ketu is I hesitate to say this, Ketu is beyond Hella. Hella is the border from which human consciousness can go, which is why she's a mirror. When you get to the end of human consciousness, what gets reflected back is all of the the attachments, the illusion attachments you see in the underworld, which is why some people go to the underworld and they have a horrible experience, and some people go to the underworld and they have a blissful experience, and most people have some kind of in-between experience where they face their demons and they work through them and then they get reborn. It's because Hella is the last barrier that human consciousness can go. On the other side of that is Ketu. If you go past Hella, your identity will completely be torn to shreds. There are places the human soul cannot go in this universe. There are dimensions the human soul cannot go. Hella is the last boundary, and she actually protects you, because you can't, as a human soul, you can't go past that. So she keeps you from completely being obliterated. She takes you as close up, right up to the edge, and then allows you to reflect on what you want to be, and then you go be it. The most loving being in the universe is Hella. Ketu doesn't love you. Ketu has no feelings. Ketu does not care if you live or die. It's your best friend to some degree because he'll show you the truth, but he'll blow you up. Just like he'll blow you up. He'll pull the pin and he'll destroy you. Evan Price, question. Working with 30 saws, I've noticed goosebumps appearing on me. Is this anything you have experienced? Yeah, 30 saws is, again, Qigong and 30 saws are connected. So I recommend reading my books, watching my videos. Go watch the 30 saws Rune Mudra video. The Immortality, immortal.thunderwizard.com. Whoops. Immortal.thunderwizard. You want to learn about the 30 Saj rune, not just the rune, really, what I really mean is to learn the power behind it. Go take that. Finally, I've started to see some renewed interest in that. The Immortal series is a series that I do plan on finishing, but I want to make sure, number one, that there's a market for it, because this is going to be one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive service that I offer, because I'm going to go into some very deep esoteric stuff. And this is not something I want people to treat superficially. If you're not interested in it, I don't want to waste my time or yours. If this is of value to it, then you're going to have to pay for it. There's plenty, if you want to get on my case about that, there's no shortage of free Qigong that will give you enlightenment and eternal life and immortality and enlightenment and health and all that. Go onto my channel, watch. I have 400 videos. Go click Qigong on my channel. If you want to learn that, there's plenty. This is going to be the high-level stuff for people who want to become an immortal, which is the highest expression of physical energy. The immortals are Taoists who didn't want to experience physical death, not because they wanted to stay in their body. They didn't want to lose their consciousness. And so they wanted to become gods. This is the difference between Buddhism and Taoism. People make the mistake because the Tao goes into this emptiness of the Tao. And people think Buddhism, by the way, Chan Buddhism is Taoist Buddhism. Zen Buddhism, Chan Buddhism, comes from Taoism. When you get a Taoist who becomes a Buddhist, he becomes Zen. So he seeks that emptiness, but it's from a totally Taoist perspective. So most Buddhists in the world are closet Taoists. They don't realize it. But the Taoists wanted to achieve immortality. Buddhism doesn't want to achieve immortality. Taoists wanted to achieve immortality, not in the physical sense, but when they would transform their body energetically, and then they would become a deity. And then they wanted to work out their perfection as a deity. They didn't want to keep reincarnating as a human being. But that has its own pitfalls as well. There's really nothing more or less spiritual about it. There's as many pitfalls in that as anything else. But there were practices that they did. And what I learned from doing the immortality meditation practices and energy work and Qigong and all that was that I learned I could manifest my reality with my intention. because in order to get the power, you have to work through. Listen to me. If you haven't listened to anything I've said, listen to this. This will completely change your idea about becoming enlightened. And people who want to master their chakras and become enlightened, who are trying to escape their life, are missing the point. They're trying to escape their karma. They're trying to escape their challenges. Taoists were seeking power, physical, energetic power, because in order to gain power, you must work through your emotional issues. Really powerful energy work will make you feel all kinds of horrific, painful shit. So if you're trying to escape, then this high-level Qigong is not for you. You won't last 10 minutes. When I was practicing the spirit fighting, which was a practice of this, which if I teach it, it would have to be in person. When I did that, this is the highest, the most powerful energy practice that I've ever experienced, is the spirit fighting. When I would do that, I would be doing my forms, and the energy would be, you couldn't believe the energy I was feeling, and the visions and the experiences and the out of body and this, and be able to touch people and have them, do all kinds of crazy wizard crap. But what would happen is, after doing that for an hour, I'd feel all that energy, and then I would go into the fetal position. If you were to see me, you would see me doing it. You'd see me standing there, and you'd see me just feeling all this energy, and then you'd see me go into the fetal position on the ground and rock around, and maybe I'd moan, because all of my unresolved emotional shit would be right there. And I knew that the price that I had to pay to get to that infinity was to work through all of my unconscious garbage. So people, and by the way, this is what people want when they smoke weed, when they drop acid, when they do power plants. They're trying to have that same experience, and they're doing it the exact opposite way. They're shoving all their feelings down, and they're forcing their brain to squeeze out the DMT, and they're having a fake energy experience. They think their mind is expanding, and all that's happening is that they're drowning in their own unconsciousness. They might have a vision. They might experience a deity, especially if you do it once in your life. Then it'll crack you open, and then you can see, and then you'll have something because you cracked open your unconscious and you did it in the right way. But people who do it repeatedly are drowning in their unconscious narcissism, and that's why they're seeing aliens and lizard people, and why they live in a moon matrix, and because they're fucking drowning in their unconsciousness. And it's a false representation of what they really want to experience, which is what Qigong gives you. Qigong will do all those things and squeeze out the DMT naturally. It takes time, you work at it, and then you really know what it's like to connect to the universe. That's this high level stuff I'm going to be teaching. And so what you're talking about, Evan Price, is you're tapping into Thurisaz, which is the rune of Qigong. If there was one rune for Qigong, it would be Thurisaz. All right. Donna Kelso, question: what's the best way to deal with the subconscious? You mean the unconscious mind. There are three minds: conscious, subconscious, and unconscious. Subconscious is in between the conscious and the unconscious. The unconscious means you can't understand it. Donna Kelso, please read my books. Please watch my videos on my YouTube channel. The best way is to feel all of your feelings and to work through your karmic issues. You don't have to deal with the subconscious. The subconscious is the subconscious as well, Freudian slip. The subconscious is the way that you intend your reality. It's the muscle. When you're closing your eyes and you're envisioning your reality, and your unconscious mind is cleared of conflict. It has to happen. You have to have the unconscious mind cleared of conflict. When the unconscious mind is cleared of conflict, the subconscious mind can intend the reality and create it. The unconscious mind is the muscle. It is the 95% of your mind. And without it, you can't create anything. If you are creating misery, it's because you have unresolved conflict in your unconscious mind. Short answer is find a good therapist and work through your unconscious issues. If you work with a good psychologist and you have a good meditative practice or an energy practice, That is the most powerful combination. If you want all of that in one practice, do Qigong and mantra meditation. Short answer to your question, Qigong followed by mantra meditation will hack into your unconscious mind and get rid of all of the conflicts in your unconscious mind. Then your unconscious mind will be, then you'll be able to do anything. You'll be able to intend anything, create anything, do anything. This is the goal. This is why, this is why shamans are natural psychiatrists and psychologists. You can't be a good shaman without knowing that. So if you want to be a shaman, go study psychology. Because you have to understand it, because without knowing the unconscious mind and how it works, you will not be able to empower the unconscious mind. When you have psychology, which analyzes your unconscious, and then you have shamanic ritual and energy work, which changes the unconscious, then you become a super being. Then you become a person who can change the laws of reality. That's why when I would do the really, really high level stuff, because I had a very traumatic youth, I would fall down into the, and I would have to deal with all of it and work through it all. All right, so that's pretty much it for me today. I think that's everybody. No more questions. Been on for a long time, talking straight for 2 hours with no break. All right, so yep, go to thunderwizard.com. For those of you who want to learn to manifest, I've got 3 things going. 2 of them are already out there ready to go. One is matrix.thunderwizard.com. Go there if you want to learn the 5 rules to master the matrix. That's just another way of saying, I want to know how this virtual reality works. What are the laws behind it? If you have those tools, you can be far more effective in creating your reality. Then go to manifestation.thunderwizard.com. And, I didn't put that, let's try it again. Manifestation.thunderwizard.com. Let's try that. Go to manifestation.thunderwizard.com. You can watch the free videos. I go and I start talking about manifestation on a deep level, what's really going on, how the law of attraction works, what it really is. When you talk about the law of attraction, you're talking about the unconscious mind. If your unconscious mind is not clean of conflict, you cannot, I repeat, you cannot use the law of attraction. It won't work. The law of attraction only works if your unconscious mind is clear of conflict. I didn't say clear of issues. You can have all kinds of unconscious issues. You just have to be clear of conflict. When you are free of conflict in your unconscious mind, then you can attract things. But in order to really make it work, you have to understand the laws of manifestation. Laws of manifestation are how to actively engage in creating and manifesting. Manifestation.thunderwizard.com. You can watch the free videos that I'm going to be putting up there, and then I'm going to be having the high-level videos, which will be on the Patreon channel, and that is going to expand into a huge program. So I've dumped as much shamanic teaching as I can onto the Patreon channel. That's still going to be there. People want to go and learn shamanic teaching from the ground up. You can go $25 a month and you'll have access to all those videos that aren't available to the public. Now we're going to turn into this other thing, manifestation, and then I'm going to create Q&As, live Q&As, which won't be until I get my, for another couple of months. And then we'll be able to go onto the Patreon channel, and just people who are subscribers on the Patreon channel on the manifestation level, which will also give you access to all the shamanism as well. Then we can have a community where we can have Q&As. So that's my goal. I want to explode the Patreon subscription channel. I want to get hundreds and hundreds of people subscribing. And so go there and click on Manifestation Mastery Course, and then you can get to the nuts and bolts of really how to make that happen. All right, so let's see. There's some more comments or something here. Nope, that's just me. All right. So that's all for now, my friends. I need to go now take care of my own Saturday. So that's it. Talk to you soon.